Welcome to Scuba with Steve. I'm Steve, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 knots that every scuba diver should know. The 5 knots we're going to be talking about are a bowline, a square knot, a sheet bend, a clove hitch, and a cave knot. There are 3 basic rules that every knot should follow. Number 1, it's easy to tie. Number 2, it's easy to untie. Number 3, it doesn't damage the rope. The first knot we're looking at today is a bowline. A bowline, or bowline, is used to create a fixed loop at the end of a rope. The first thing you're gonna do is take your working end, your tail end like this. You're gonna make an overhanded loop. By overhanded, I mean the line is going on top of the tail. So my working end is here, the loop is going on top of the tail. I take my working end, I come up through the part I just created, around the tail, back through the loop I just created, the exact same direction, and then you just pinch here and you pull here and the knot happens. This can be used for attaching the rope to something. It can also be used with a second rope to attach the 2 ropes together if you make one bowline around another bowline. The bowline is by far one of the most versatile knots that any scuba diver or really any person should know how to do. Next up, we have a square knot. A square knot is used anytime you have 2 ends of a line that you want to make one line. You need to attach 2 different ends to each other to make one continuous line. How does it work? I start by tying my shoelaces. I take the black end in this case, it goes over the white end comes up and goes around the black. We're halfway there. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but opposite. This time, white is going to go underneath the black, and black is then going to go underneath the white. What you've done is you've created 2 little loops that are going to pull against each other and not go anywhere. It's super fast. It does come apart a little easily sometimes, but if you keep it under tension, it'll stay put the entire time. Little trick when you're learning how to tie knots, get you a piece of rope and make 2 ends different colors. I use white and black. Then whenever you're doing your knots, it's pretty easy that white went over black, black went over white. If you have them the same color, sometimes it can get confusing. One thing about square knots, it needs to be used with lines of the same thickness. If the lines are different thicknesses, there's a chance that even if you make the knot correctly, one line will just slip out from the first. Depends a little bit on how dramatic the size change is, but if you're using the same thickness line, it should work every time. If you are in a situation where you need to attach 2 lines that are dissimilar thicknesses, I'd recommend using a sheet bend. Take your thicker rope, put a little bend in it. Depending on the thickness of your other rope, you might have to make this knot very close to the curve of your bend. I take my smaller line, it comes up through the bend. It's going to come around both of these 2 times. Around once, around twice, and then it's going to go underneath the smaller line, but over the bigger, right there. Now, you pull here, and that is it. Next up is a clove hitch. A clove hitch is used to attach a line to a fixed object, like a railing on a boat or a large part of a wreck that you need to tie into. Super useful knot. All you have to do is take your working end, put it over the object you want to attach to. I'm going to pull a lot of slack through here. Now I'm gonna go over again, but this time I'm gonna go over the other side. So sometimes I'll tell people to switch hands, and we're gonna go to the other side now. Now before I pull this tight, my working end is gonna go through this loop that I just created by crossing over my tail. It comes underneath, and then I'm just gonna slowly pull it taut, keeping it all in place. And there you have it. Clove hitch. What you've done is you've created opposing half hitches. A half hitch is just that one knot that everyone knows where you make a loop and you tie it through and it's like that. It's a half hitch. Not gonna go anywhere Doesn't seem like much, but I guarantee you it's not gonna slip off at all. Last but not least, the cave knot. A cave knot is used to permanently attach two different items. You remember that thing I said earlier about the 3 rules of a good knot? Of course you don't. This breaks 2 of them. It's okay if you don't remember, you probably don't remember. A cave knot is gonna keep these 2 items attached while allowing them to slide just a little bit, but not much. How does a cave knot work? I'm gonna find a spot that looks like it has a little dip in it. Right in here, there's a little spot where I can have my bolt snap attached. I can still remove my SPG, but inside of that little dip, it's not going to allow the knot to slide down my hose. First thing I need to do is put my line under what I'm attaching to, and I'm gonna pull a lot of slack through. A lot. I'm gonna put my bolt snap, I'm gonna put first bit of string through the bolt snap. And I'm gonna go around this and through the eye 3 times. Leave yourself plenty of extra line. Make it nice and tight. And then I'm gonna make a simple half hitch. One end over the other and back inside. Make it nice and tight as you can possibly get it. And I want this tightness to be in between the bolt snap and the rest of the line. Nice and tight. Now I flip it over and I take these 2 ends of line and I'm gonna create 2 more knots on the back end. To help keep these correct in your head, I recommend tying a knot in one of them. Same as we would do with the line where we have different colors. To help us remember things, tying a knot helps a lot. So I tie a simple half hitch. I'm gonna put the side with the knot around the other side and as tight as you can. So wrap your fingers around, get it nice and tight, tight. So this one went around last time. Now the part with the knot is gonna go in front of the other one. And what you've done is you've created opposing half hitches, which if you remember, makes a tiny little clove knot right there. Tight. Now we cut off the slack, leaving a little bit, like a centimeter-ish. Half an inch to you Americans out there. Cut that nice and tight. Cut it nice and short rather. And you should be left with 2 little bits right here. I call them fuses. So to help this knot not become unfrayed or looking gross and a little bit more solid and secure, I'm gonna burn one end. And then it's gonna start melting down, and once it gets right to the edge, smush it together. And then I do the same on the other side. Smush in place. And there you have it. Cave knot. Should be able to move a little bit if you need it to, but not gonna come undone because you've made a clove hitch right there. Clean that up a little bit more. Voila. There are thousands of different types of knots out there. These 5 knots are the ones that I keep using on a regular basis, and I keep teaching to people on a regular basis when they need help with their equipment or when they need help with something dive related that requires a knot. These knots are not tied to any agency whatsoever. Some agencies require different knots for a dive master or for a rescue course, but this is a great place to start, and I'm pretty sure most of these knots, most of the time, most agencies require for you to learn scuba diving wise. As far as life is concerned, you're still gonna use these knots a lot. Go grab a piece of rope and you'll be surprised how useful you can be if you know these 5 knots. Until I see you next time, everybody, stay safe, go do something cool.